Didn't like it. Kieran's Uneducated Movie Reviews. Solo: A Star Wars Story is the 10th movie in the Star Wars franchise and is about the origin story of how Han Solo became the character we know today. It was a pointless movie to begin with. I didn't want it, a lot of people didn't, but they made it, and I went with an open mind. I came out pissed off. I'm going to talk non-spoilers first, and I'm going to say what I liked about the film. The acting was actually pretty good, yeah. The Alden Ivan, right. The young Han Solo was very good, as was Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. Wasn't in it a lot, which sort of bugged me a bit. I would like to see more of him. Emilia Clarke playing whatever her name was, don't even remember it. That's how little interest I took into her character. She was necessary for the plot to move forward, but I just found her so dull. So dull. Pretty much everyone's performance was good, but a lot of the characters fell short for me. The only ones I took real interest in were Han Solo and Lando, and who was it? Tobias Beckett, played by Woody Harrelson, was actually an interesting character. I took quite a shine to him. He did some unexpected things which could have led on to a much more interesting final third act, but it didn't. They just sort of dropped it, and I was like, alright. The score by John Williams, the greatest of all time, was very nice indeed. I very much enjoyed that. It's nice to see him doing a Star Wars, because Michael Giacchino did Rogue One, and although it was good, it didn't really do anything new. It sort of just played on the old John Williams scores, but John Williams just bashed out a whole new thing, and I was very happy. There's a little bit at the end of the film where, I won't spoil it now, I'll wait for later for the spoilers, but there's a little tiny bit of a song from an old Star Wars film, and I was like, yes please. The action scenes for the most part were very interesting. There was the train scene in the trailer that was very good, and the Kessel Run. The Kessel Run was fun to watch, and I know Star Wars is a fantasy sci-fi, but the science behind the Kessel Run is a bit dodgy. A very interesting antagonist played by Paul Bettany. I forget his name, but he's sort of like the leader of this sort of crime syndicate that he pays people to do jobs for him, and he was an extremely interesting character. I love Paul Bettany, he does some great stuff. Let's get on to the directing, shall we? Because this film was a concoction of different styles of directing, because about 2/3 of the way through production, the original directors, Chris Miller and Philip Lord, were 2/3 through the film, and Disney turned around and said, no, we don't like it. Just told them to fuck off, really, and so they did. So they brought in legendary director Ron Howard, who, from off the top of my head, Apollo 13. They brought him on and said, fix our film, please. And to be honest, he did an okay job at trying to make some sort of cohesive something. But it's very clear moments in the film where you can see the difference in directing. There's a bit at the start of the film where Han Solo has a fake grenade, and he jokes about it, and that's very much Phil Lord and Chris Miller. You can see the sort of humour and stuff behind a lot of the scenes that they directed, but Disney didn't want to go for that. So they went with Ron Howard, and when you see Ron Howard, there's a lot of dark themes when he's directing. But they still kept in Chris Miller and what's his name? The other one. They still kept their stuff in. And so you've just got conflicting bits of humour and dialogue, and it's just... Ron Howard did his best, I'll say that. Ron Howard came in with 2/3 of a film and just bashed out something, and it was average. Honestly, I'm amazed he did as well as he did. But for the most part, when you're watching the film, Ron Howard's directing, when he's on it, it's very nice. I like his camera work, and from the trailers, the scene on the train, that was extremely exciting. I enjoyed that very much, and yeah, that's about it for the positives. Negatives: Han Solo's story arc is fucking shit. We want to know why Han Solo is the way he is at the start of A New Hope. He's not miserable, but he's very protective and cautious, and all round a smuggler. And so I was looking forward to seeing how he became this young, enthusiastic kid to the man he was in A New Hope. We didn't. People are going to argue with me with the scene in the spoilers, but there's two scenes at the end of the film. One shows Han Solo being the one we thought in New Hope, but then 2 minutes later he goes back and does a thing that Han Solo wouldn't do. And so they build a weird fucking line of story arc and then just give it up at the end. What's the fucking point? Just, if you're gonna do something, stick to it. Don't sort of try and edge your way around it saying, if people don't like it, do this way. If you have an idea, stick to it. People don't like it, that's fine. You've had an idea of how Han Solo should be at the end of the film and how the story arc should go across the entire film, but you didn't stick to it. And that makes me like the character so much less in this film. Moving on to spoilers now, so if you do plan on watching the film, feel free to stop here. Thank you for watching. But I'll be talking a lot more in depth about the story and why I hate it a lot. To start off, let's delve deeper into the Han Solo story arc, because, as I said in the non-spoiler section, there's two polarising things that he does at the end. One of those things, which I really liked actually, is Han shot first. Han and Tobias Beckett have a standoff because Tobias Beckett betrays him and Tobias is about to shoot Han. And as you see Tobias's... It was very well shot as well, I must say. It's very nice. As Tobias goes to pull his trigger, Han just... You just don't even see Han do anything, you just see the bullet hit Tobias, and I was like, oh damn. So that would have been nice. That would have been how we know Han has become how he was in A New Hope. But 2 minutes later, he gives the coaxium that he stole back to those freedom fighters. Why? He shouldn't do that. Han would take the coaxium for himself and just fuck off. But instead he gives it as a kind gesture. So you see the dark side of Han when he shoots first and see why he was in A New Hope. But then he goes the exact opposite and gives a gift away to some freedom fighters who are part of the rebellion. The story arc should be at the start. Han is this enthusiastic pilot and he wants to do good for the world, and just you should see his attitude just slowly deteriorate throughout the whole film until he's like, this world is terrible and you can only survive by being terrible. Because that was what Han was in A New Hope. And then as A New Hope starts, you see him come back up again, and in Return of the Jedi he has become a member of the rebellion and he saves the galaxy with the rest of them, but you don't see that. A couple of nitpicky things now. Lando Calrissian calls Han because in Empire Strikes Back, Billy D. Williams, who played Lando Calrissian back then, called him Han, but his name is Han. But no one corrected Billy D. Williams because that's how he read the script. He called him Han, and no one picked up on it. And that has been like a sort of like a almost like a plot hole for years. And they fixed it by having Donald Glover call him Han, and then Han saying that's not how you pronounce it, but that's okay. It was kind of cool, but kind of just sort of like a throwaway thing that just to sort of fill in a plot hole. It was an interesting way of doing it. Speaking of names, Han Solo isn't his real name. He gets the name Solo from when he's enlisting into the Empire to be a pilot, but they need a second name. And because he's on his own, the man enlisting him just goes, Solo, Han Solo, and Han's like, yeah. What the fuck? Why? That was so unnecessary. It was poorly done, it was very lazy. They could have even got a laugh out of it. They could have gone, Han Loner, Han Alone, Han Solo. They could have done that, but they just went, so your name's Han, you're on your own, how's Han Solo? Cool. Why? His name could have just been Han Solo. Why couldn't he have had a surname? One thing I didn't talk about in the non-spoiler section actually was the droid that Lando Calrissian has called L3 something. It's L3, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. I understood the humour and why it was funny and why people would find it funny. I didn't find it funny. I thought it was too... what's the word? I thought it was too just sort of out there, and they gave the droid far too much personality. It's a droid, like, you shouldn't... You can't really give a droid too much personality. Otherwise you might as well just have had a human character. Because the character of L3 is all about robot freedom and droid freedom and stuff like that. So there's a scene where she frees a load of droids and she's like a freedom fighter for droids, and I was like, that's great and all, but it doesn't really make sense. The Phoebe Waller-Bridge was a great voice actress, and I'm not sure whether she did the motion capture, but I understood why it was funny, and I got a couple giggles out of it, but wasn't too keen on the droid. But that's just a personal thing. A lot of people do like the droid, I've seen. And now for the big spoiler reveal at the end of the film. The crime syndicate is run by none other than Darth Maul. What the fuck? This was the thing that pissed me off the most. Big Darth Maul fan. Think he's a brilliant character. Kind of wasted in Phantom Menace when George Lucas killed him off. Could have had him like a 3-film antagonist. His story has been told. Big Star Wars fan, I've watched all the cartoon series, the Clone Wars and Rebels. Darth Maul has a complete arc and has finished in Rebels, just last series gone. Obi-Wan kills him in the cartoon. Great, almost poetic ending. Why bring him back? First off, I'm not sure, but I think that sort of messes up the timeline a little bit. I haven't done the research. I'm sure someone has. But timelines just a bit off there. It was just fan service. That's the only reason I can think that Darth Maul's in this film. It's just pure fan service. He didn't need to run the crime syndicate. They could have introduced a new character. My idea was that the crime syndicate would be run by Snoke, and that would give a lot less and a lot more mystery to the character of Snoke, and lead on to more stories to be told for him, because Darth Maul's story has finished. He's had a complete arc over the entire history of Star Wars, and it's finished, and they fucked it up, and they're continuing to tell the Darth Maul story for whatever reason. The scene as well with Darth Maul, like his reveal scene, was terrible. Hologram talking to Emilia Clarke, he ignites his lightsaber and de-ignites it for no reason. Is de-ignite a word? I don't know, I'm too pissed to care. It was just an awful shot scene. There should have been... Look, we didn't even need to know it's Darth Maul, right? Because... there's another thing. They're setting up a trilogy, aren't they? The film is left so open-ended that it's barely even a finish. We don't know what anyone's up to. We don't know what the freedom fighters are doing with the coaxium. We don't know what Han and Chewie are doing because they're just stranded on a beach. Emilia Clarke's character just flies off into with the ship, going whatever, and Darth Maul's like, we're going to be working closely. Great. This was supposed to be a single Star Wars story movie, and they've set up a trilogy. It's just such a poor choice. Such a bad choice to have Darth Maul. Honestly, you could have Darth Maul, but just do it better. If they are setting up a trilogy, they shouldn't have shown it was Darth Maul. They should have kept it from behind the hologram. We don't know who it is. That deep voice, Emilia Clarke, we're working a lot closely. Great. Adds mystery. We don't know who that is. Second film comes along. That's why people go see. Who is this hooded figure? And have a epic reveal scene of Darth Maul with the music from Phantom Menace, which was in the scene a little bit, but not like prominent, like a hurrah. Just have that Darth Maul standing there. People would lose their shit if there was a second Solo movie, and that's what happened. That's the reveal Darth Maul deserves. Not a crappy hologram, him sitting in a chair. Oh look, here's my lightsaber. Zzz, look at me, it's Darth Maul. Bit on the nose, and Darth Maul. They could have done so many different things with this film that would have just given it that little bit extra oomph. But they just made the wrong choices. It was an average film. I sat and watched it. I was enjoying most of it. It was worth the money, I guess. I'm going to give Solo, a Star Wars story, a 6 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching, and feel free to do the old subscribe and like and the comment thing in the doobly-doo. And I'll see you next time. Ta-ra!